good that they removed all the chairs because I can go for a skate later. Okay guys, welcome to MJB, where you liberate, empower and inspire yourself to be the greatest example of your creation every day. Today I want to talk to you guys about how you talk to yourself. And one of the things I noticed, I remember I was climbing Mirror Peak, you know, I had 17 of my clients with me, and we're on this really arduous trek up to the highest trekkable climb in the world. And when I came back, people said to me, you know, out of everything that you did there, what was the most difficult part? You know, was it the strain on your body every day? Was it, you know, the altitude sickness? Was it the cold temperatures, the winds? And in actual fact, it was none of those things. The thing that was most difficult was I started to really pay attention to how I was speaking to myself. Now, most people will never admit that they have an internal dialogue, solely and only because it's not that they don't want people to think that they're crazy because they talk to themselves. It's that they don't want people to I suppose, get a whiff or a sensation or an idea of how they talk to themselves. And what I found over the years is that, you know, when you're dealing with people and helping them to shift their concepts of their reality, one of the things that happens when a person basically does an equilibration and they shift that internal dialogue is that internal dialogue goes really, really quiet. Now, when your internal dialogue has a hold of you, what it's doing is it's whispering to you in a certain way. And I've often been in rooms with people and said, okay, how many of you guys would gladly get your speakers from your stereo system and plug them into your ears and broadcast the conversation you're having with yourself out to the world? And most people go, no way, there's no way I would do it. And the truth about it is that that's a little bit disturbing, because the reason people wouldn't do it is because they don't want the world to know how they're communicating with themselves. So in actual fact, it's really, really empowering to grab a hold of that internal dialogue and actually stop and think about how you communicate to yourself. And, you know, grab a hold of the pen that's writing that dialogue and stop and acknowledge who you are, and really stop and take control of the time that you're spending with yourself, and making sure that you're really respectful to yourself and that you're honoring yourself and that you're acknowledging who you are. I remember one day I'd walk into the bathroom. I've got a 1-year-old Lola and I've got a 3-year-old Lexi. Actually, she was just turning 3. And I walk into the bathroom and I'm bathing them and they're sitting in there and they're playing. And I literally walked outside the door for 10 seconds. I walked back inside, and it's an absolute no-no. You should never walk out on your kids when they're in a bath. I walked back inside, and here's Lexi has Lola's 2 legs up in the air like this, and Lola's under the water trying to get air. So I remember I yelled at Lexi, "Lexi, let her go." And I walked over and I lifted Lola out of the bath. And I remember how stunned Lexi was. And the first thing that went through my mind was, oh my God, you've damaged that child. Oh my God, you're a bad father. Oh my God, look at what you've done. That's irreparable. Look how frightened she is. Look how scared she is. And then I stopped and I caught myself. And I kind of learned this when I was climbing the mountain. I stopped and I caught myself and I thought, you know what, Mitch, you have to be a little bit more respectful about how you speak to yourself. Have a look at these kids. Look at where they are. Look at the extraordinary parent you are. Look at how well fed they are. Look at the clothes that they wear, the home that they're in. Look at the job that you've done. Look at how you actually speak to those kids. Look at the fact that you took Lexi out of the bath and you hugged her and held her and let her know how much you loved her, and also said to her that what she was doing was dangerous, that you knew to stop yourself. Now, if I hadn't have had the internal awareness to do something like that, or to stop and acknowledge myself, I can guarantee you I would have beaten myself up, probably be still doing it subconsciously somewhere in my mind today. So I want to give you guys a couple of tips to be able to really, really help you to be able to grab hold of that dialogue and make sure that you're keeping it in balance. So tip number 1 is that in your life, if you're going to beat yourself up, or if you're going to beat yourself down, it's important to take yourself back and be fair about how you communicate with yourself. So if you're ridiculing yourself, slamming yourself and putting yourself down, stop and think about it for a minute, and stop and acknowledge where you've done a good job, where you are more focused, where you are more organized. Stop and see where you're getting it right in your life, and be fair about how you speak to yourself, and don't let that feed just acid drip inside of your mind. Another cool thing to do is that if you're beating yourself up and you're saying, oh, I'm so fantastic, I'm so great, I'm so cool, I'm so awesome, I know I've achieved this win, or I've achieved this goal, I've overcome this adversity, It's very, very important, guys, to make sure that you humble yourself, because there's a great universal law that states, you know what, if you don't locate the condemnation in your life, the condemnation will always locate you. So one of the things that I recommend you do is that when you're feeling really cocky and self-righteous, and you'll know when you're in those places that it's not sustainable, it's only lasts a short space of time and it has no substance to it, the best thing to do is say, okay, well, where could I have been more organised here? Where could I have been more disciplined? Where could I have done a better job? And actually bring yourself back down into a state of homeostasis. And another really, really cool step is this one. We'll call this step 2. Turn your monologue into a dialogue. Stop, and when you find yourself being cocky and self-righteous, find someone that you can share that information with. And what happens is that as you are taking that, what you're saying to yourself out into the world, and you're expressing it verbally, you start to see the extremities in it. So you start to see actually how unrealistic it is. And on top of that, if you have somebody close to you that you can share that with, they'll be able to help you balance that out. They'll say, well, you know what, that's not actually true. And or else they'll humble you and say, you know, well, where could you have actually done a better job there? Or they'll build you back up, and they'll say stuff like, well, actually, you know, I see you as a really great dad, or I see you as a really fantastic, you know, friend, and you're a great communicator, and, you know, you really seem to be being hard on yourself. And what it does is it allows you, as you express it in the outer world, it allows you to take yourself back into that level of homeostasis, and it also brings true to you, or rings true to you, the extremities of what you're saying. Because if you just leave it internally, it has a tendency to wind up or wind down and get worse and worse and worse. Whereby if you express it externally, you're actually able to hear the ridiculousness sometimes of what you're actually saying to yourself, which in turn has a natural ability to take your internal thoughts back into a state of homeostasis. And remember, guys, all life is balanced, all life is homeostatic. So the third and final way in which I recommend that you basically harness your internal dialogue is at least once a week you should celebrate your wins. And this is probably one of my favorites. The way, what I mean by this is that, let's say that week you have really been aware of how you've spoken to yourself, you've really been aware of your internal dialogue, and you've really taken some time out to make sure that you're acting out of integrity and with compassion and empathy, and it's allowed you to feel as if, you know, you're a better person. Well, celebrate that win. So, for example, you might put it out on Facebook. Hey guys, I want to celebrate a win that I had this week. Normally I would blah 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 blah, but because of how I've been communicating with myself, my internal dialogue, I've actually been managing my emotions a lot better. Another cool way to do it is that you might reward yourself and take yourself out to a movie, or even when you're with your buddies on a Friday night having a beer, you might stop and turn around and say, guys, I just want to celebrate a win I've had this week. My boss came in and said this to me. Normally I would react in this way and I'd be depressed and sad and da-da-da-da-da, but in actual fact this time I decided I was going to harness that internal dialogue, and I was actually going to calm myself down and acknowledge, and I want to acknowledge myself this week for doing an extraordinary job and really, really stopping and nurturing and being careful about how I nurtured myself verbally, internally. So that's what I recommend you do, guys. Okay, Adelaide people, now we got a really, really exciting program coming out to you guys. My clients in Adelaide are asking me all the time, when are you guys coming out? When are you guys coming out? Well, I'm actually sending out a couple of our team members to Adelaide, and they're running what's called a property goldmine event. It's a one-day event that has been held in Adelaide. You'll be able to see all the details just below you in the link. So if you want to come through to that and have a listen, these guys are experts in the area of property. They're all students of mine, and one of them, his name is Ray Bain. He's actually my brother. He's also one of my mentors in the area of property, and he's coming out to share some really, really, really cool, don't miss information. So my recommendation is follow the link, and you'll get a free ticket, and you can bring some of your buddies or whoever you want out there with you, and you'll be able to listen to some cool information. And of course, the guys, I'd love to see you there. Okay guys, as usual, I want to take this forward to the comment box. So here's what I want you to do for me. I want you to tell me in the comment section a win that you're going to celebrate this week. And let's amongst ourselves start to share some of those wins that we really, really want to celebrate this week. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drop in there a win that I want to actually celebrate. Now, if this has assisted you or helped you in some way, please help us to help other people. Flick it forward on Facebook or tweet it. Now remember guys, love is all there is, love is the only way. Live life inspired at MJB Seminars. Take care. Bye-bye. Did you hear it doing skids? We got to move this furniture out of the way so I can do full circles.